Here we go. Hello and welcome to our Friday webinar. We are with Lisa Bono. Welcome, Lisa. And Flock. And Flock behind you.
Yep.
They're all doing, I think they all this is like their groom time of the day. It seems like they're always just chilling in the background. And is that right?
Yeah, they kind of just woke up from a nap. So, and again, Sydney is in the other room with my husband because he'll sit there. My husband's home today, and if he sees my husband, he just keeps calling out for my husband, and you won't be able to hear me over that. So he's hanging out there with him.
Okay, so they're watching from another room, maybe. So wait, what our topic today is, it's winter and holiday prep, right? So we're gonna get ahead of everything. We're gonna give everyone a lot of time to get all this started. Well, winter's, I guess, gonna be here before the holidays, technically, right? Although it's still warm where I am, I'm sure. In many parts of the area, it's is it cold? Is it cold in your parts? Just before we get this.
It's starting to get a little colder. I mean, we're used to, my blood is thin now, and I love the warm weather. We got down to the low 60s in South Carolina overnight, quite a few nights. And some of the days, the highs have been 72. So it's like, everybody down here has their sweaters on and their boots on and the earmuffs out. It's pretty fun. So,
oh, wow. Yeah, it's the perfect time to break out some pumpkin spice Nutri-Berries for your bird if you haven't gotten any yet.
I just got my case yesterday. So we are good.
All right,
Yes.
so I one of my favorite, I've been noticing this trend on our webinars, and I kind of really like it. I hope it continues, but on our little chat thing, I like when people log in, they tell us where they're logging in from. It just kind of shows how our community of these webinars has broadened. And so yeah, so if you don't mind, let me know where you're all coming from.
Yeah. I like to see that too, because I get to see it afterwards. So it's nice to see everybody logging on and the support and learning, and it's great.
Yeah. Okay. I know. I just love seeing that people take the time, because we're all some of us are in different time zones, and so it's just nice that people can join us. All right. So Lisa, I know that you have a fabulous PowerPoint for us, and we'll try to do questions at the after your presentation. So we'll save those questions if we have time for them. And I guess we got a lot. Winter is coming fast, and so are the holidays. So I'm gonna let you get started here.
Okay, let me everybody give me 1 second here. It looks like some things have changed.
I know Zoom's always changing things. Huh?
Yeah. Oh, I got all these things in front of me. I'm still moving things. Just give me a second. I'm trying to get
okay. I'm just looking at where everyone's coming from, different weather. We've got someone in the 90s, someone in the 50s. We are all over the place weather-wise.
Be thrilled if it was in the 90s. Okay, moved everything out of the way so I can actually see my presentation. So, thank you everybody for joining in. We're going to talk about preparing for the winter and the holidays. A lot of the stuff we're going to talk about, you can really carry on throughout the years or throughout the year, because a lot of us face storms that come in. It's really preparation for all that as well. So you might want to take some notes down to make sure you have everything ready to go. And again, you can review this later on if I go too fast for you. So thanks for joining, and here we go. So fall doesn't actually start till I believe Sunday. So, but Sammy wanted to wish everybody a happy fall, y'all. That's one of the first things I bought when I moved down here, because I've always used, the word y'all, and even though I was from New Jersey, but that's Miss Sam. And it's been cold down here in the South. Not this cold, but it's enough to make the Southerners shiver. I should have got some pictures. It would have been pretty funny, but that's Abigail. She seems to be the star of this webinar. I guess because I have a lot of pictures of her doing different things. And that was actually up north during the winter. So when the leaves begin to change, especially down here, I'm in the upstate of South Carolina. It's a great time. The weather's still decent. It's still warm. It's a good time to start winterizing, as I want to call it, for the webinar, your home your bird room. And unless you're really down south, probably lower Georgia, even parts, of northern Florida, mainly southern Florida and Texas and Louisiana, stuff like that. Maybe California, I've never been there. Your windows are really going to remain closed pretty much from now, because we've had a lot of allergies with whatever's going on down here. So your windows pretty much are going to remain closed for months to come, and even longer up, in the north. So you want to make sure the environment is clean for the birds through the winter, so you can do your little spot checks. If it's a nice day, maybe you can, still go outside and power wash in the winter, but we can't really rely on that. So now is a great time to start doing this, to make sure that your birds stay happy and healthy. So you have to make a checklist. This way, I did mine a couple days ago to make sure that I had everything written down that I wanted to do before the really cold weather comes in, because the last thing you want to do is be out there pressure washing when it's 60 degrees and being wet. So make your checklist. You have a couple days to look it over, decide what you're going to do. And the northern folks should already have started this, because it's starting to get, very cold up there. I saw somebody write in and say it's a high of 58. So don't wait for it to get too cold to start doing this, because you're going to hate yourself. So that is actually my checklist, front and back, of what I'm going to do. I'm going to be starting shortly, probably the week after next. I'll start winterizing everything here. That chicken is not real. It's a porch chicken. It's kind of a joke, because I want them and we can't have them here. So my husband came home with a fake chicken to put on my porch. But you want to make sure that you have this all written down, check it off as you go through. And I'm actually going to go through my list as we're going through the webinar. So first thing I'm going to really do is I'm going to start with cleaning my cages outside, power wash everything, the smaller ones that I can get in my bathroom. This is not the ultimate bathroom for washing cages here. So what I can get in the tub there, I will. Otherwise, they have to go out onto the deck to be power washed. So here's some of it. When I'm moving along, it takes me about 3 days to actually do everything, because it's just more than the cages that I'm washing. You can see to the picture on the right, that's actually my husband up in New Jersey. You can see he's long pants. It's starting to get really cool there. So we wanted to get it all done. Another thing you want to do is with your, I don't know why my animations are not working today. I'm sorry. So this is actually my Austin air purifier. And I make sure I vacuum these things a couple times a year. But going into the winter months, again, you want to do this outside. So it's really important that you get it all done. And you can see on my finger there, that is the dust that's coming off. You can see with my pointer here, this is all dust. Okay, so that's what you're breathing in. That's what they're breathing in. So if you're going to clean the room, you got to make sure you clean that, because, it needs some help once in a while. And there we have Sterling, who's supposed to be part of my animation, saying, that's not for me, but obviously it is. When you have all your cages and your trees or whatever you have outside, I also go through and I clean the whole room. So we'll take down the curtains, because again, they're going to be covered. So you clean your curtains. I'll do the walls. I'll do the windowsills and the windows. Can't really reach the window up top other than the windowsill to vacuum it, because I need a pretty big ladder to get up there. I'll do the floors. I'll do the cabinets. I'll make sure that everything is clean for me to be able to put them back into clean room. And I'll do the same thing for the little sleep cages to make sure that everything's good to go for the winter. If you have a drafty house, this is my house up in New Jersey, and not that this was drafty, but you could see there's a lot of big cages in a little room, and you can't see my air purifier hiding in there, but I assure you it is. I had a big double window there, and Abby was just far enough away from that window not to reach the windowsill or the curtains. but I didn't, then you can obviously feel it was a little cooler on that side. So in the winter, I'll go through and I'll make sure that I have heavier blankets. These are flannel blankets, flannel sheets that no longer fit our bed. So I converted it into covers for them, kept them a little bit warmer. I made sure, with the winter, I wash all those again, make sure that they're good to go. Your carrying cases, again, think of it this way. You're preparing for any kind of weather event that can come through. So whether it's a snowstorm, whether it's a hurricane, whether it's a tornado, these things should really be kept clean. And while you're cleaning everything else for the winter, it's a great time to go over it, because even if they're just sitting there, they're going to get dusty. Okay. So while drafts and breezes are good for this little character here, which is Premier Kite and Designs, it's a little wind chime or wind spinner thing. It's not so good for these guys. So what I do is wintertime, I'll come in. I have blinds on there, but they're windows. I have room darkening blinds. This was before we built the bird room. Again, a lot of cages, little room. This room is easier to keep warm. That is why it is their sleep cage. I will put heavier curtains on the windows, again, to kind of block out, any breezes that might come in at night, or, the windows are, I think here are from 97. So, older windows, they start to fail, stuff like that. So just extra precaution, just to keep them a little bit warmer. Down under this one curtain where my cursor is, that is the heat for the entire room. Okay. So instead of the heat, it's forced hot air. So instead of it blowing up and going right underneath the curtains, what I do is I have that plastic piece that you can get at Home Depot. It goes over your little vent and it directs where the air is going to go. This way it's not blowing on any of the birds. I have it, directed so it could blow it out into the middle of the room. So everybody, the temperature kind of maintains a little bit easier. And here's another picture of my house up north, the bird room. And there's the bigger one. You can see a little bit better, the bigger window that Abby is at. Now, what I used to do up there is there's a product you can put on your windows. And because she was just a couple inches away from all that, I wanted to make sure that she was going to be warmer. You can see down here again where my pointer is, that's the little heat directional. So that was the only thing in the room. Again, I had the plastic piece pushing it down, but that's not really going to keep her warm next to the window when it's 18 degrees out. Okay. So what I would do is I get this plastic sheet. And what you do is you put it on your window itself. So you can't really see it in that picture, but that window is covered in a plastic. So what you do with that is you'll kind of you'll take like this two-sided tape and you'll tack it up. And then you take a blow dryer and it blows down and it kind of shrinks. And that'll keep, if you touch that in the winter, you'll see how much colder that is than not having it on there. And then they have the little, I'm going to call it window insulation. It's not insulation. It's like a little foam gray strip. And you could put that along the bottom or the sides, or if it's not lining up, they have different sizes. You can put that there, and then you could put the plastic over it. You don't want to put any kind of plastic on the window with the birds in the room, because you are kind of melting the plastic to put it on the window. So the birds always came out of there. And I usually did that late September, and it would stay on till probably early April. So, and then I would take it down. It usually comes down nice and smooth, doesn't end up ruining your windowsills if you're concerned, but it did make a big difference in the room and keeping them warm. My mother used to have to do that a lot when I was younger in houses that we lived in. And that was always stuck in my mind, that it always kept us warmer. One important thing you really need to check before winter's here is your heating system, because I found that out the hard way last year. We went to turn on early October, our heating system, guess what? It didn't work. So not only did we have to scramble to now find a heating system, we have a heating and air, one unit outside, similar to what you're seeing here. And not only did we have to find somebody to do it, not only did we have to, figure out the funds because they're not cheap, we also had to figure out how long the birds had to stay at the house, because there is going to be fumes that come off that, and what we had to do. Luckily, because it was the beginning of October, we were able to keep the windows open and turn that on. I had my air conditioning units going, and the birds were actually out in my RV, and I kept them out there a little bit longer than what the company told me, but we want to make sure that it's safe for the birds to come in. So my next webinar we're going to talk a little bit about doing your research and stuff like that. So again, it's important to make sure these important pieces of your house are working before you need them. Because my room is pretty much all windows, and the way that the breeze comes through here, I feel that I really need to keep it a little bit warmer. Now, the way the room was designed, the heating vents are closer to my living room versus being underneath the cages. So the birds are sitting right by the windows. Sam's actually sitting in a corner by 2 windows, and so is Sydney. And that gets a little bit colder. I'm not going to put the plastic up on them. These windows are from 2018, but I still feel it's a little chillier. I have the temperature right next to Emma's cage, where I can actually see how cold it is in there. And when the sun starts to go down, there could be 8 to 10 degrees difference within the bird room, which is right next to that chaise lounge you're looking at, and where that chaise lounge is. So I know a lot of people say they really don't need, extra heat. They do acclimate, but I feel better and they stay warmer. And you could see that's Abby on her swing, and she would pretty much perch right under that. So I know that she appreciated that product, and she, wanted to be underneath that. So, I got them for everybody. And you can see with the little extension poles and everything, I kept all the wires safe. So you might want to consider something like that. Now, that is going to have to be run by electricity, and we'll get into that later on as well. So if your power goes out, those aren't going to work either. If your power goes out again, or it's cold and you want to get a little, movable heater, these are the ones that I use. And I actually ended up selling for cost so I can turn around and get another one. The black one that I had there, because a client that was local here, their heat didn't come on. And it was like January, and they needed, heat, and we couldn't find what we were looking for in the store. So I just told him to come here, and he could have the one I had for cost, and I will go out and buy myself another one. Because when you buy something like this, you need to make sure you research it. A lot of these things contain Teflon. So you don't want to be buying just anything willy-nilly you see, in one of the stores on sale, and plug it in and expect it to do the job. You have to watch out with certain ones, because we know they contain Teflon. They're made to keep the humans warm, not necessarily the birds with their delicate respiratory system. So even when you buy something like this, these are going to be the oil-filled radiators. They are going to be hot to the touch. So it's not like you want to have the birds out and risk them getting on top of it if they fall or try to climb up on it. So this is going to be something that you'll have in their room, and they're going to be locked in their cages, so they're safe if you need it. But with this product or any product, you also have to do a burn off period. So you can't expect us to come home and plug it in. What I did with mine is I brought them home. I have the enclosed porch. I put them out in the enclosed porch. I ran them for 2 days straight to get anything off. And then what I did is actually put them in my garage and ran them in there for a couple more days. And then I was able to bring them in. And I'm not going to lie, maybe it's just me, but I still think I smell a little bit of something, and maybe it's the oil, and that's normal. My nose usually never works. So you want to be careful. I wouldn't necessarily put it in my bird room here and close the doors because I noticed something. So if it's going to be an open area that you're trying to keep them warm, if you have a storm that comes through and you're gathering the birds and, you know, say in a little circle or whatever, you know, because you have a bunch of cages, and how are you going to keep them all warm? You know, you might be able to put this in the middle, again, open air to the rest of the house, so to keep it nice and warm. We had to do that a couple times here. Luckily, we don't lose electricity a lot, but you know, we had to do it a couple times when it was out for more than 12 hours. So now, again, prepared for any kind of weather event that's coming through. A lot of people have portable generators. These need to be kept outside. You don't want to, you know, have CO poisoning. So these are great. We have one of these. It'll pretty much cover the entire house, but my husband has to go out and set it up every time it happens. So we have to fill it, you know, with gas tanks, and it's got to run, it's got to be outside, and, you know, there are newer ones that I'm aware of only because we just recently got one. So now we have ones that are actually solar power. So if your electricity goes off, your heater's not working, you are concerned, you have options. If you have that little cage heater to keep them, the infrared, keep them warm, you can plug it into the portable generator. Okay. These are run with the solar panels. They're not going to do a lot unless you get into the really expensive units, but it'll do what you have to do to keep them warm or keep a light on for them or what you need to do. And that one's Jackery. I'm not overly familiar with one. We have one, it's for Patriots, and it was actually given to us, which we're lucky. And so you can put the solar power panels wherever you need to. I'm not sure if they work through a window or if they have to be outside the window. I'm not exactly sure because we haven't used it yet. But this is something portable that I can pick up, that I can have running in here and not worry about the fumes and everything coming off of it. And I could keep everybody warm. Other things you want to make sure of is you want to try to keep an extra month worth of food as backup in your house. You know, if there's weather issues out there and it's snowing or there's a storm in some states and you can't get your food through, you're going to be in trouble. So you always want to try to keep a little bit more on hand. I also keep bottled water because I want to make sure that the water is safe for the birds to drink. I could care less what I'm drinking, but they need to have safe water. And also I need to be able to change it often enough. So we want to make sure, you know, you have that, especially if you're on a well, you're not going to get the water out. We are on city water, so we have that, but who knows what can happen with the main filtration system if they go down or if they're on generators, I don't know. So for $5.99, keep some bottled water in the house. Paper towels, obviously, to clean up because you're going to be looking around and you might already went through the 3 rolls you had in the house. So I kind of stack up on paper towels as well. I happen to like that brand because I think it's a 6-roll pack that I've noticed is the normal size. They don't use glue to hold the paper on. So then you also have a tube to use for foraging. You can cut that up, keep them busy that way. So that's just what I prefer. And the Nutriberries fit perfectly in there. And now we're going to go on to Halloween. So this is a time where you're going to have a lot of not normal things in your house. Okay. You're going to have your candies. You're going to have your kids coming through the door. You guys might dress up yourself. You know, different with your makeup, whole bunch of different things that are going on that the birds don't, you know, they don't understand what Halloween is. They just see all this scary new stuff that they're not acclimated to. So for instance, I had that parrot outfit. It's actually like a giant onesie. So when I got dressed in it, because we dress up here for the kids, we usually sit outside, and there's good reasons for that. So we sit outside, they come to the table, and they pick what they want. So what I did with Sammy is when I dressed up, and Sammy looks really thrilled there with me, but I did all my makeup and everything, and I had the hood down. So then I went into the bird room, and of course they're wondering, you know, looking at me with this big thing on. And I went to the other birds so they can kind of see. I didn't go too close to the cages because Abby, you know, her behavior was showing me she was not, you know, her postures and her eyes were showing me she was not comfortable with what I had on. So Sammy came out, and you could see I walked into another room in the house. That's actually my dining room. So I went in there, and then I put the hood on. Sammy was okay with it, but she didn't look too thrilled. Other times, there's times where I've dressed up where you can't go near your birds at all, because that's going to scare the crap out of them. So, you know, they're seeing people come to the door. Okay, if you have them out, you have them in view. They're seeing all these things coming to the door. I've had instances where little kids have walked right between my legs and came in the house, not knowing that's not what they're supposed to do. So then you have a kid, and then they see the bird and they run towards the birds, and then the parents have to run in. You know, you want to try to deter, you know, that kind of stuff, because that's just going to scare them. So this is my husband out on our front porch, and I happen to really like the fall and this time of year, so I decorate quite a bit. So there's quite a few things on that porch that are going to move. They're going to get bigger, taller, scarier, make noise. And you can see the way I have the lighting. The majority of the stuff I have is out of the view of the birds. So they're not seeing anything strange or different. You could see the little spiders on my front porch. That's animated. A lot of people will come on the side of the houses, but then you got to think that's also coming through your windows. So I have it, you know, down on my front porch where they can't see any of that. And the larger skeletons and stuff on the side that are going to pop up, those are blocked by walls. So really the only thing that's on that front porch that would be scary to my birds if they saw it at that point would be my husband. So obviously you're going to have lots of candy out for the kids, and you're not going to necessarily be standing there the entire time watching, you know, the candy to make sure the animals don't get into it. So look at all those fun, exciting, different shapes. And, you know, of course, the parrots are going to be pulled right to that. And you can't have them getting into candies. So another good reason to keep them away from anything like that, so you don't have any kind of issues, because that's going to draw them right to them. You want to make sure that the birds are safely in their cages. You know, I know a lot of people that answer the door with the bird on their shoulder. A lot of birds take off. You don't know what's behind that door. It only takes a second. Even though people say, oh, my bird has never flown in 20 years, it gets spooked enough, it's going to be fight or flight. So flight is going to be the first thing, they're going to take off. So you want to make sure that they're always safe in their cage. And another thing that I like to do with my own, and through the years, I kind of had to learn, I never really took the African grays near any kind of door or let anybody from Halloween really ever see them. I did have one Amazon that was extremely feisty. And my thought was, okay, so you have people coming to the door. You don't know these people. You don't know where they live. You don't know what's up. And sadly, you do have to be careful, because there are people in this world that are not nice people. You don't want your bird being taken. So I can't specifically say to the left if that was the gray that was stolen, but you can obviously see the people had the bird out in the front cage against the people, the person driving by saw it. They came back and they took the bird. So now you have people coming to your house. You're opening the door. The cage is right there. The bird's yelling hello. Person might say, "Oh, that's a really cool bird. It's in there talking. I want one of those." So you just never know. With my one at Amazon, I knew if somebody really ever tried to take them, they would be extremely sorry in a heartbeat. I don't think they would ever be able to leave the house with them because he would get them. So, but with the grays, I just really kept them out of sight, out of mind. And now that you're getting into the colder months, you're in November, it's starting, your houses are going to be a little bit stinky because it's all closed up. People ask me all the time, can I use air fresheners? Can I use this? No, you can't. And you shouldn't even really try. You can't use your candles. You can't use your sprays. You can't use the plugins. You can't use anything like that. So if you want to make sure that your house is smelling good, or, you're having company over, what you might want to do is maybe simmer some apples and cinnamon and that cinnamon sticks, and that smells fabulous. It smells like an apple pie. You can do cloves, and orange. I think some people were talking about lemon and mint. So there's different things you could do to help freshen up the house without putting the birds at risk and at danger. And once you try this out, you put it on your stove. I used a great big pot. I got it boiling, then I turned it down to barely anything. Sometimes I transfer it to a crock pot, but I don't really seem to get the same smell out of that. And what I did was, I would do that and usually get about 2 days worth of, this smell going on. So it actually helped me sell a couple of houses because everybody's like, "Oh, this house smells fantastic." Now we're getting into Thanksgiving. There's other things you have to be aware of. Some of it has to do with what we've already talked about with Halloween, but now there's new things and new challenges as well. So a lot of people are going out and they get all these different brands. I couldn't tell you, what this is. It's just simply a picture off of Amazon. They want to know if the diamond plate or this kind or that kind, or what about, your air fryer or your Instapot or, anything new, or, your gigantic new cake baker or whatever it is. A lot of these products have Teflon. And the first time you're going to use it is when you're making a big dinner. So, you can end up with dead birds. You have to be very careful with what you use. And I will always say, I use stainless steel, I use Revereware and Farberware, and that's a copper box. I think my set is probably close to 35 years old, but it's still in good shape. That's what I use. So beware when you're going out and you're purchasing new things like this to use, and keep it in the back of your mind. You go to the company, you ask them, for the what's in it. They should be able to send you some sort of sheet besides just telling you, "Oh no, it's safe." You need to do you need to look up the information for yourself and make sure that it's safe. Open flame. We really shouldn't even be talking about this, but we have to. There's Sammy by her little Hanukkah, her little menorah, excuse me. And that never gets lit. And again, you can see she's on my hand. She doesn't get close enough to touch it because I don't know what's in those candles. This probably has lead and zinc. So it's on her windowsill to see it. Because that's what her mom used to, or the person before me that used to care for her, that's what they celebrated. And I just wanted to make sure Sandy still had part of that in her life. And then again, you have your, if you're going out and you get a new stove or whatever, again, everything like that has to air off. But a lot of people love the, the open flame like that. And yeah, it does kind of cook a little bit better. But there are different things you have to worry about. You can't have your bird out in the kitchen when you're cooking especially with Thanksgiving. There's so many other things you got to look at. You know, you're making sure that your green beans aren't burning, or your potatoes aren't boiling over, or your turkey's not burning, and your apple pies are looking good over there. You want to make sure that the bird is away so it doesn't get burnt, it doesn't drown, and it doesn't get scalded. And actually, I know a couple birds who have landed in boiling water. So that's easily preventable. So use your mind when you're doing these things. Keep your birds safe and keep them away. Preparation areas for poultry may be contaminated. Okay, so don't be working on your bird, the turkey, and then start touching the cabinets and the drawer pulls and all that kind of stuff, because now you can be contaminated and then your bird's in there, and again, it's not a good place for them to be. So you want to make sure that anywhere that you're preparing any kind of foods, you're going to clean well. Be mindful of what you're using to clean. Again, there are issues with, your heavy duty stuff. We've done a couple webinars on that. So do your research, make sure that you're using something that's safe. I tend to use, when I'm disinfecting stuff, a lot of Dawn dish detergent. I'll do that on the counters and the knobs and stuff, especially with my husband who does the cooking, because I don't cook anything with bones. I'll go over pretty much the whole kitchen. This came from the Vogue Animal Hospital, and you can use this for all animals. But I specifically took it out because it says undercooked or raw turkey may contain dangerous bacteria such as salmonella. And that's what we were just talking about. And then I see people giving bones. You do have to be very careful because they can splinter and they can get caught in the bird. And then you're going to have, a blockage, or you're going to have splintering, and then you're going to have surgery and your bird may pass away. So, a lot of the vets don't want you adding extra protein in anyway, especially with the heart disease that a lot of us are dealing with now with our birds. So be mindful. And then, of course, your garlic, your onions, leeks, and chives, the destruction of the red blood cells. And you want to just be careful with this stuff. Your gravies, your stuffings, they might all have that in there. So again, this is just a little quick reminder. Most of you already know this, but it helps being reminded. No caffeine, avocado, chocolate, rhubarb, that kind of stuff. Never any chocolate. Going back into Halloween, no chocolate. No of these sugar substitutes. That's not good either. And then they can end up with upset stomachs from having sweet treats. So if you want to give them something, you can give them a little pumpkin. Actually, this pumpkin is a little bit big, but it was for a cute photo. Abby looks to be, with her behavior or her body language, looks the only one that's really interested in it. That was bought for their mash that I make at night, but I figured I'd take a cute picture. Actually, the smaller pumpkins is what a lot of people do. Some cook. I usually cook it. Or try to. Some give it raw. Just make sure that if you can get it organic, make sure you wash it well. But these are two cute little photos I was using as well. And those are the ones that the birds usually tear into. And no, my birds usually don't wear clothing. Those are also just for pictures that was sent to the person who made it for me. You're going to have more people in and out of the house. And again, if your bird is away, safely tucked in their cage, you don't have to worry about doors opening or cooking or lots of people in the house. You are going to have more people in the house if you're having, everything's at your house. You need to keep people away. Okay, this is on my door. So my French door is going into my bird room. When I don't want people to interact with the birds, close the door. A lot of people go and grab that handle and then they see that and they release it. Because if you're in there cooking or you're, having a glass of wine with Uncle Joe, you might have people in your bird room sticking their fingers in the cage because the pretty bird, said, hey, come here, tickle. And then all of a sudden they're bleeding. So I've had that happen a couple times at my house. They were warned, don't put your fingers in the cages. That is the bait and switch. Sterling is really not as sweet as he's pretending to be. And people have left bleeding. They were warned. Hi, Sterling. And now that's Sterling talking and laughing in the background. So this is actually, now we're going into Christmas. And again, you're going to see Abby is on my hand. They're never near anything sparkly. That was sent to my husband, the picture when he was in Iraq. So all those things that you see hanging there, they have glitter on them. I can tell you, being a makeup artist, I do a lot of glitter stuff as well. And I never go near the birds when there's any kind of glitter on me, because believe me, I've gotten it in my eyes and it does not feel good. So there's no way you're going to go into your macaw or even your canary, go in and try to get, some glitter out of their eyes because, it was all over you or all over whatever's in the house. So I try to keep a lot of this kind of stuff away from the birds, because I don't want them landing near it. And once you have sparkles, you're going to have sparkles for the next 6 years showing up all over the place. So just be mindful and keep them away. We were probably about 3 feet away from the tree. This actually, I believe, came from the Lafeber website. So these are some things you want to keep in mind and look over. And we're going to talk a little bit more in detail. So we have Christmas trees are obviously very attractive to the parrots because all the sparkles and everything else. You have your holiday plants that are potentially toxic. You have your decorations, again, sparkles and all this, other stuff that can be toxic. You have exposed wires, the birds will go over there and chew on. You have the strong fumes from cooking or trying to clean can be dangerous. Your cleaning agents, like I said, if you go in there and you dump bleach all over the place, that's going to smell and that's really going to bother them. You might have somebody show up and not tell you that they're bringing their dog. I've had people tell me stories like that. And sadly, their bird lost in the end because somebody brought their dog there and they didn't know it. And the bird or the dog got a hold of the bird. You want to make sure that your people aren't giving the bird stuff behind, when you're not looking. And, it's stressful for us with everybody there, all our cooking, all our decoration, all the present buying, all the candy buying for the kids, it's stressful for us. And it's just as stressful for them with all this new stuff and us rushing and maybe not being as patient with them. And, so you got to keep that in mind as well. So here we have, a lot of you have, this is where I usually do my webinars in front of is one of my Christmas trees. Now that most of the ornaments I try to get on there are not going to have sparkles. Okay. This way I can have the birds a little bit closer, but there are a few ornaments on this tree that did, specifically these wings down here. Okay. I needed more decorations just to fill the tree. So I got those. Not fan of them. And eventually when I get enough, I'll just get rid of those. And then I'll be able to move it into the bird room. And everything there, except for the ceramic ones that people have given me, are shatterproof. So this way, if a bird does hit it, there's no sparkly garland on there. I use just ribbon to go around that, for instead of a garland or tinsel or anything like that. There's nothing like that on there. So the real trees are often sprayed with chemicals to make them fire retardant. And then you have chemicals that are in the base in your water that contain fertilizers. So I know people who have sadly brought the trees into the house and they had real trees and they had birds pass away. One in specific was a client of mine, and we come to find out that the water in the base of the tree made the bottom of the tree go moldy. And upon necropsies, we found out that the birds ended up having respiratory issues, and the gray had Asper. So that's why they ended up passing away. And granted, the symptoms the birds were showing the birds didn't pass away a day of having the tree in there, but their symptoms started happening. It was after Christmas when they succumbed to what was going on. And then you have your toxic, pretty little decorations. You have your mistletoe, your poinsettias, your mums, your yews, the English ivy and holly, all associated with the holidays. And you don't want your birds anywhere near it. So if you insist on having a poinsettia in your house, go to a craft store, get one there that, doesn't have all the sparkles on it. Enjoy that one versus, having real ones in the house. It's not worth it. You could do the same thing with the mistletoe. Your mums are mainly outside greeting people. So as long as your birds aren't out there chewing, again, with the holly and the yew, same thing. Those are pretty much going to be outside, but you have to be aware if you're cutting them and bringing them in and using them as, a focal point or something, they are toxic to your birds. And I'm sure that's not a complete comprehensive list. I'm sure there's other things out there. You also have your sparkly little baubles, as we'll call it. So let me see if I can see the chat. Everybody let me know what your main concern would be with these stars and snowflakes I have behind. What would you think would be an issue if the birds got a hold of that? Okay. See if anything comes through. Rhinestones, yep, exactly. Okay, metal, yep. Okay, so we have and what would it cause if they were to, there you go, small jewels, excellent. Okay, all that, love it. You guys are great. That's what I wanted to see. Everybody go through and read those comments. So here we have Emma. Again, she's on my hand. You can see the nail. These were in my dining room, so they were not necessarily near the birds, but I wanted a cute little picture. So we took Emma in there, and the issues with, if the birds got a hold of that, they can ingest everything you guys just said. They can, the metal, the little beads, the rhinestones, everything that's on there. And guess what? Guess what you're going to end up having issues with? Lead and zinc. So you want to be careful. You have to be mindful. So wrapping paper and bows. This is something I see a lot of. And again, this isn't a whole comprehensive list, but this is a lot of times, this is what I see people doing. They'll either put their birds in the tree with all the sparkles and all the glittery things and think it's a great picture. Please don't do that. And then you have people that are letting the birds rip open this wrapping paper, same thing. It's got all the glitter, the bows. You could see this is actually my tree. I am not able to put this up anymore because it's about 13 feet tall and it's that's an actual part of a tree. So, but up here on top, these bows are all glitter. So this is in my dining room. The birds do not go in there. And then because it took me so long to get it up, I would switch it over to a winter theme and it would stay up. But I would be in a load of trouble if any of the birds ended up going there because I would have an issue. So you don't want them chewing wrapping paper and or bows. What I usually do is, I'm sure you can use like a craft paper if you want to, the brown craft paper. You can use a lot of the sheets that we use to line the bottom of the cages. You could wrap it up in that. What I usually just do if I'm presenting a present, a lot of times I'll just wrap it up in paper towel because it takes them a little longer to rip that apart. So they have fun with that. So keep this out of beak's reach as well. And then you guys hit on a lot of it with my question about what the birds can ingest. Again, your jewelry. Keep all this stuff away from them because you're dressed up. You got big rhinestone earrings, or you might have a Christmas tree on, your shirt that's got these little sparkles on them. again, you're going to have lead and zinc. You're going to have, they're going to swallow it. You're going to be in a lot of trouble, and you're going to be at the vet's office. Then you have your wires. Okay. A lot of exposed wires. Okay. So the bird's not going to know what that is. That kind of looks like, a toy to them. So they're going to go over and they're going to chew on it. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're mindful of where you put everything. You can hide all your wires if you have to inside a PVC. Just get a big piece of PVC. Yeah, it's not going to look as pretty, but you can hide some of that behind your tree skirt. Or maybe you could put a couple decorative pillows along the PVC so you don't see it, but it's out of beak's reach. Okay. We actually had in New Jersey a squirrel who loved plastic stuff. He ate the trim off my car. He ate my windshield wipers. And then one day, just as we were getting ready for a storm, our electricity kind of like browned out and then went out. Okay. Luckily my husband was home. He went downstairs. We had a little fire starting in the basement because the things that you're supposed to have to absorb the shocks or whatever from the electricity, that started the spark, melted the floor. So we had issues there. So he went down there. We didn't understand what went outside, but what happened? Why did we lose power? We were the only ones. Went outside and there was a fried squirrel in our driveway. So he caused all that damage. And in fact, the electric company actually took out that piece of wire and took it back with them to the company to show everybody what to look out for. So that squirrel was fried immediately. You don't want that to happen to your parrots. Then you have New Year's. And this is the last thing we're going to really cover. So we have, we're an HOA. Now we're not allowed to do fireworks, but this was actually outside Sammy's window. Okay. So somebody was lighting off fireworks and they shouldn't have. So because Sammy is the nosiest neighbor ever, she's always looking out the window. I want to make sure I set up the environment to make sure they get through the evening well. What I'll do is I will actually put them in their little sleep room. I'll move them away from any of the windows. I'll pull down the blinds. I will keep the light on a little bit longer that night, and I'll keep music on a little bit longer to kind of drum out some of the noise that's going on. So you don't want them around all that, scary booming and stuff like that. So people ask, does it snow in South Carolina? It absolutely does. This is just cute. I wanted to show you real quick. One time I came home from work. I was bored. I went outside. This was in New Jersey. I decided I was going to make my first snowman. And that's what I came up with. So that was a snowstorm up there. So I want to thank everybody for joining in. And I don't know if we have time for questions, but if we do, let me take a look.
Okay. I love that snowman. You have to too bad not snow here. Very good. Let's see. We maybe have time for let's see if Brenda has a question that she could send to me from our Q&A button. That was really interesting. So then I was going to ask you, we've got to kind of kickstart this holiday season is we've got in some areas, we've got the clocks falling back. So do you notice the difference with your flock when you go back? You fall back, right, in your area?
Yeah. I hate it. I love it when it's bright out till 20 after 9. I do notice it. They're not as awake and aware in the morning as they should be. Their naps aren't at the right time. They start asking to go night, a little bit earlier. And about a week or so, they start to get back to normal. So it takes me longer. Yeah.
I guess I try to stay on the similar time schedule, so I'm not like, so they kind of expect it. My bird expects to see me around the same time they usually wake up.
Right.
Yeah. And then so let's see. Okay, let's see if we have, let's see. Okay, I don't know if we have time for a question today, but I do have a giveaway winner that I'm gonna announce. And that is going to be, this is a seasonal favorite, I hope. This is the newest flavor, limited flavor, limited time only, and that is the pumpkin spice Berries, and that is going to go out to Judy Greenwood. Congratulations, Judy, as well as another Lafeber product of your bird's choosing. Yeah, and so yeah, everyone's just, that's a great presentation. As always, you nailed it out of the park, Lisa. Thank you.
Well, one thing I wanted to add in, there's two things actually, real quick. Another thing, I think it was Dr. Lori Hess who wrote something up about emergencies and being in the winter time. I will send it over to my boss here and have them attach it to the video so people can somehow read it if they want to in case of emergency, how to keep your bird warm. And also if you have multiple birds, okay, you guys have heard me talk about this before. I'm not going to be able to pick up 6 carrying cases and leave, okay, if there's some kind of an emergency. So, for instance, here is, it's a bag I made. It is a pillowcase simply with a drawstring in it, okay? So, especially in New Jersey, when I was on the 2nd floor, if I needed to, an emergency, if God forbid something happened with my Christmas tree and I needed to get out, I could put all the birds on here, close it shut, attach it to something, drop it out the window. So at least I know the birds would get out. They can't stay in here long, but it's a great way to be able to get multiples out quickly. So that was another thing I wanted to let you guys know real quick, because I had it on my list here.
Oh, wow.
Make sure, I had it here. Make sure I know where those are. So
make sure you remember where you dropped it or I got it down. Yeah,
right.
that's important. Yeah, and just a thought on that is heading into the holiday, like the thick of the holidays, it's kind of hit or miss what's open, what's closed, and maybe if you have a vet visit, get that started sooner than later, because that office might be closed. There's so many things, and if you're thinking of boarding your bird, right, now's the time to kind of make all that start happening, right? Like,
yes, it's a great idea to reach out to your vet and find out when times our offices are open and or where they're sending you when they're closed.
And emergency too. So if one of these, gosh forbid, something that did go wrong and your bird did eat some utensil, like where to take it on, Christmas Eve.
Yep.
And then and also what amount of time frame do you recommend if you're going out of town to make a reservation to board your bird at a vet or a bird place?
It really depends. Some boarding places, they might have a huge boarding area and be able to take you that day. My bird sitter who comes in the house, she's booked this entire year.
Oh, wow.
So I can't get her at all. So it really all depends. And the closing point for me is I want to just make sure as we're going into the holiday season, we're going into cold weather, everything that's going to happen in your house, the way I think of it is try to always think of your bird first. Okay. Safety first with everything that's going on.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And then, and if you're going to board your bird, you probably have to, some of them require all the, the tests to make sure that they're healthy. So you got to get those ahead of time too. So
right.
Get ahead of everything.
Exactly.
And then someone in the comment section, thanks, Esty, just said to make sure you winterize, your car is winterized in case you have to make a vet trip in bad weather. So yeah, keep your,
exactly. Good tip.
So you put on your winter tires, which I always find amazing because we don't have tires in Southern California, but I love the other states.
Well, I'm old enough to remember when we were up in New Jersey in the hills. We actually used to be able to put chains on our tires. That's how we had to get around. So, yeah. So luckily I don't have to worry about that anymore.
You're probably happy about that. All right. So we are out. We are done. That was good. That was good. And the good thing I just remind people is that if you didn't have to take if you didn't have a chance to take notes, you could go back and rewatch this webinar because the presentation will be there for you. And you can rewatch it and tick all those boxes on your winter prep and your holiday prep time. So on that note, thanks everyone for joining us again. Next Friday, we're going to be on with Dr. Tom Tolley for another episode of Ask the Vet. So if you have any burning question about your bird's health, or if you don't, join us anyways, because you could also learn from other people's questions. So next Friday, Dr. Tolley will be on with another episode of Ask the Vet. On that note, congratulations to our giveaway winner, the pumpkin spice nooch berries. Those are a hot commodity, just in time for the fall. And thanks again, Lisa. Great presentation.
Anytime.
Next time, guys.
Thank you.
Everyone stay safe. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye.